It's an anxious time for teachers, parents as well as pupils as the marking of matric papers is currently underway. This year, there's added logistics headaches of the second wave of the Covid-19 pandemic. Now, the papers written by over 200,000 candidates are being marked at 30 centres in Gauteng. In total, over 3 million scripts will be processed. Our reporter, Tumaole, is following the story for us, and he visited one of the marking centres here in Johannesburg and is with us right now. Very good afternoon to you, Tumaole.
Very good afternoon, Tammy.
So, parents, teachers, everybody waiting, especially the pupils as well, waiting for the final results to come out. But obviously, before that can happen, the process has to unfold. How is it looking so far?
So far, from what I saw, I visited two schools. In fact, one of them was the school in Pretoria. And what I saw there is that they have a process in place that seems to ensure that there's a smooth running of the marking process. They are very, very conscious of the challenges that are being presented by COVID-19. And what they did, particularly at the Pretoria Girls High, is that they have a shift basis that is going, which means that the markers are brought in on a rotational basis. This was also the same situation with another school that we visited here in Johannesburg, Jeppe Girls High, and that was the situation there as well. So it seems that they are making sure that with the restrictions of COVID-19, the process is not stalled because they have the markers coming in for a certain amount of hours, and also in terms of the COVID-19 restrictions, you have the markers sitting at a space away from one another, and each time they get a new batch of papers, they have to sanitize again. That is very, very important, and they change their pens. So indeed, in terms of trying to keep a healthy situation within the marking environment, they are on top of the ball from what we saw.
Yes, indeed, they are rotating. So the number of learners, or at least the time spent marking, is not reduced. But what is reduced are the number of individuals that can actually be in one particular centre at a specific time. Mm-hmm. So one would calculate that that would somehow affect the pace of marking. Is that something that perhaps was highlighted? Would it actually be a factor?
It wouldn't be a factor according to the department, because you're absolutely correct in terms of the amount of individuals in a particular centre at a given time. These individuals, they have made sure that they have met a minimum amount of individuals that could make sure that the papers are coming through at a certain amount of pace. However, those individuals are also there at a limited time frame. What they have done is that they've set up a timetable according to the Gauteng Education Department, so that when each adjudicator finishes their shift per se, the next individual is already being processed in terms of making sure that they are screened. They have to get their temperature checked, and of course they have to get sanitized, and they have to get their equipment. And once the next adjudicator has finished their marking process, the one is already on standby to come in, and then the classes are basically evacuated that way. And before the next batch of adjudicators come in, then a screening, or basically a deep clean of that environment then takes place, whereby the desks are sanitized, and then they are given fresh marking equipment, and the papers themselves are also taken through a sanitizing process. So it's quite a process, but they have systems in place to make sure that it's smooth.
Well, let's take a look at what the officials are saying regarding the process thus far. And according to you, Tumaole, it certainly sounds like it's a factory that's well oiled.
Breaks, so that you can go outside, have fresh air, and as you might have realized that the windows are open, even doors as well are open, but then there are 15-minute breaks where you just need to rest and make sure that we adhere to all the protocols. But like as you've already indicated, that we need to sanitize. We encourage markers to use their own pens. So that's why visitors will then probably be having to share, but must make sure that you sanitize. But all markers, they use their own pens. And we encourage them not to be close to each other. Social distancing is quite paramount for us. Even during breaks, when they eat, we have a snack, it's important that they are far apart from each other, because they will then be taking off their masks. So it's quite important that we maintain that. But up to so far.
So, Tumaole, do we have an indication as to when the results are to be expected?
Well, what we do know is that the Gauteng Education Department is saying that at least by the end of February, at least, that's when they are hoping that they will be finished with marking those particular scripts. That's the deadline they set for themselves. And as far as they're concerned, they're well on track. And they say that they are having contingency plans in place already for any, upcoming emergencies should there be any infections going forward, because they have a whole team of volunteers in place, and they do make sure that, of course, the screening of the markers continues. However, should there be those who fall or take ill with COVID-19 particular infections, then they do have backup plans. So in terms of when the duration will be, end of February is the time frame for now that they've put down.
Well, thank you so much for that very positive update as far as the marking is concerned of the matric papers in Gauteng. Thank you, Tumaole. That's Tumaole Mohlaoli there, giving us an update of the marking process in Gauteng for the matric papers.